And we are live.
All right. Dave, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, Mike.
Good. What are we going to talk about today?
Finding motivated sellers
Awesome.
for your wholesale deals when it comes to wholesaling real estate.
Awesome. Yeah, so I
Or
guess,
just investing in general, I guess.
yeah, it's just motivated sellers. So again, the number one thing when it comes to real estate investing, you have to buy right? You have to have a deal in order to make any money. So finding a motivated seller is of the utmost importance. We're finding a seller that is willing to sell at a discount. Hence, discount property investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the ways that we are finding success, or having success rather, finding motivated sellers right now.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down into two categories.
Okay, I like that.
I'm going to break it down into list and non-list marketing.
Okay.
Okay.
I can play along.
Okay, so the two, or I should say the three things that we do that are non-list based marketing. One is drive for dollars. Two is networking. And three would be our radio ads. Those three types of marketing don't require a list. Driving for dollars, you actually build a list, your own list, but it's not a purchasable list. You have to create it.
Say again what you got. You got.
Driving for dollars.
You don't need to buy.
You don't need to buy a list.
Right?
You're creating it, but you're not buying a list. Everything else you have to buy a list to do it, basically.
So
or create a list.
Keep going. Which ones? What else you got?
So driving for dollars,
Driving for dollars.
networking,
Okay, networking. Yeah.
the radio ads that we have running.
Mm-hmm. Is that it?
And that's the only. Those are the three.
So you've also got online ads. You wouldn't necessarily need a
Okay,
list.
that's a good point. That's off market or off list too as
And
well.
then one more is bandit signs.
Oh, man, I didn't even
So
think
don't
of those
forget your
two.
bandit
Okay,
signs too.
okay.
There's plenty of ways to market. That's the other
that's
thing.
great, Mike.
Plenty of ways to find it.
And then the bandit signs. Okay, no, that's good. But that's basically the ways without a list
Correct.
that you can go and you can market. And we're probably leaving some of those off, but that's the main ways.
Well, those are the ones that we're using currently,
Absolutely.
having success with. Yeah. So those are our non-list ones. Okay.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 of them, give or take. Okay.
Mhm.
And then we have the ones that are list. You know, a better way to word it would be list dependent. Is it list dependent or not? Right? So the next ways are list dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can use a driving for dollars list, or you can purchase a list, but the next ways require a list. And what are those? Well, typically cold calling.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't have a list made in advance, you're making it when you go search for that stuff, like what's for sale and what's for rent. Right? Cold texting, which is very in line with cold calling. Any type of RVM or voice broadcast, which is just another.
So RVM is a ringless
voicemail.
And a voice broadcast is just like it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sends a recorded message. So like you pick up the phone and then it just starts playing a recorded message. So a voice broadcast.
Direct mail.
Gotta have a list.
Gotta have a list to mail to. We mentioned bandit signs above. Online ads above.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then the new one, and we haven't really utilized this yet, but you had mentioned it earlier today to me, is called Go Knock.
Yep. And you don't need a list, however.
It has a list.
It has a list in it.
Yeah, it's kind of a different one.
Yeah,
We'll
you
talk about
pay
that more later.
you pay to access a list that changes in real time, and then you can then go knock on their door or just use that to call them and text them. You don't have to knock necessarily, but it's actually designed for knocking.
Yeah.
But I would call that a list because
It's
though
list dependent.
it's list dependent, even though you're not importing a list, you're purchasing access to a list.
Exactly.
So it's list dependent.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's basically, again, the main ways to go about finding motivated
Cool.
sellers,
Well, let's
in my
go-
opinion.
let's
There's
talk
about 40 other ways, maybe 50 more, easily.
Mm-hmm.
But 80-20 principle, this is 80%, if not 90%.
This gets 80% of our efforts and attention.
Correct.
Because it gets 20% of our. I don't know. It generates most of our.
It generates 80% of the leads,
Yeah,
put it that way.
20% of our effort, 80% of our leads, right?
Effort's totally different. Just talk about leads.
Well, 80-20, you're doing the 80-20. I'm stuck on that.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is you got leads coming in. 80% of them are coming from this, regardless.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
all the efforts, all of them, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Okay, so
Let's talk about each one a little bit then.
absolutely. So when it comes to the non-list dependent types, radio, I think also could go with billboard and or television. You can group that together as like call it a mass media. Those are great because you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on those types of marketing. However, they're going to be expensive. That's going to be the
very
downside.
little effort.
Very
which is
little
nice.
effort.
So like you set it up, and maybe you got to go record an ad or film a commercial or get your billboard figured out. But then once it's up, it's very hands off, which is nice.
It is, and I love that.
Yeah.
And and the great thing about marketing to non-list dependent type of marketing is you may miss a lot of motivated people that aren't on your list.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea with the non-list is it's more mass. So you may have somebody that doesn't live in this city but owns property, but they come into town and then they hear that. Well, there'd be no other way for them to hear that message as if they were here because it's radio, right? Yeah, it might be 30, 40 miles, but you still got to be here. So I really like those because, automated, widespread, not necessarily very targeted, but it's great because it's very wide. You're casting a huge, wide net. Now, on the flip side of not being targeted, next I would say PPC, or really just any type of online advertisement. That could be an ad on Facebook, Google, YouTube, LinkedIn, saying that I buy houses for cash and I'm looking to, buy some more. What do you got? I'm here to help. So that would be the online avenue. Again, not list dependent. Instead, you're targeting and you're looking for keywords and clicks. Next, we talked about networking. And you can find motivated sellers from networking. We get a lot of them. We probably get 10 to 20% of our leads from networking. All the other agents and investors know we buy houses and properties and flip them and rehab them and own rentals. And we get a lot of leads that way. But networking is going to build. It's going to snowball. You're not going to get a bunch of deals from it right off the bat. But the sooner you start networking and telling everybody your business, the sooner you're going to see reciprocate, see a return on that.
100%. In networking, another one, you guys are online watching us right now. I mean, another way is utilize your social networks as well. So you can go into Facebook, and Dave is very adamant. And it's true, he posts once a month or so, once a week.
I try to do it like every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. It's just
and everybody knows at this point, and they laugh when they see it because they're just like, man, you are relentless. And I'm like, if you don't know what I do, how can I help you? How can I get paid?
I want to buy a house.
I want everybody to know
that
if there's a house in St. Louis that I can get at 50 cents on the dollar, I'll be there in 4 to 6 hours.
Well, and it's true, though. Like a good deal, we jump on, man.
Yeah.
We're there. So networking, all right.
Okay, networking. Bandit signs, non-list dependent. Okay? Similar to the radio, anybody can drive by it. It's all about traffic, so you want to put those in areas where you're going to have a lot of traffic or in areas you're going to see or that you want to invest in. But you may have a person driving in an area that sees a sign that doesn't live there too. So really just bandit signs are just another mass media way of getting your message out.
I would say that, yeah, it is, and it's kind of like a scale. When you start out, you're probably not going to have the money for your marketing to go straight to a billboard ad. But if you've got a few dollars, you can buy some bandit signs and you can put bandit signs out there. Again, it's not the, it's not as high dollar, and it's not going to stay as long. It's a bandit sign. It may last for a week. It may last for a month. May last for a weekend, out there on the side of the road. But it doesn't cost as much, so it's a cheaper way. There's a lower barrier.
Yeah, you can make your own bandit signs. If you got a bunch of cardboard, go dumpster dive and find some cardboard. You got bandit signs. Boom.
Exactly. I know you're ordering stuff on Amazon, so cut those boxes.
Every
up.
box is a bandit sign.
Cut those boxes
100%.
up and
Absolutely.
put them out there.
So moving on. So we talked about the radio. We talked about mass media. Mm-hmm. Talked about online advertisement. Talked about bandit signs, talked about networking. Last but not least would be driving for dollars. It's my favorite of the non-list dependent types of marketing for motivated sellers. Number one.
Why is it your favorite, Dave?
I love it because you're getting properties that they may or may not be on other lists that you can purchase, but A, you're building your own list. It's unique to you. So you can never buy that same list, right? Secondly, you're finding properties that are distressed today versus doing a lot of mail. You can't go drive every property you're going to mail. Why would you? That would be a waste of time. But if I'm only targeting houses where they're boarded up windows, the gutters are falling off, the grass hasn't been cut in 2 to 3 months, not 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 months, like tall grass. If there's a broken down car in the driveway, all right, I figure that, that there's a problem happening somewhere. It may be with the person, it may be with the house, but it shows with the house. That's for certain. So those properties typically have a higher rate of getting you in touch with a motivated seller. Also, it's very difficult to buy a property at 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar when it needs no repairs. Think of that too. So if you can find houses that need repairs, it is going to be a whole hell of a lot easier to get a massive discount on it, or even a slight discount, but a discount nevertheless.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point when it comes to driving for dollars.
The reason driving for dollars is my favorite way is because you're in areas that you are interested in buying in. So we are investors here in St. Louis, and we're building a rental portfolio. We buy and flip and sell turnkeys, and we flip houses, all that stuff. But when we are in an area that we like, we're in an area we like. It's just that simple. So then we can see which properties need a little work and might need to be sold. So it's great. Driving for dollars is awesome. So what is driving for dollars and how do you do it? It's as simple as hopping in your car or getting on your bike. Dave, I know sometimes likes to bike for dollars. I've run for dollars. You don't get quite as far with that. But yeah, so you get in the car and you drive around a neighborhood. You're looking for vacant properties or distressed properties that there might be an owner who is motivated to sell. And that's basically what you're doing driving for dollars. That's step one. Mm-hmm. Step two, you are going to then locate that owner. So you have to find that owner. Step three, make contact with the owner and offer to buy it and buy that house. That's kind of how it works. So you have to find a property, then you have to dig up and figure out who the owner of that property is, mm-hmm. and then you have to make contact with them. So each one of those steps takes a little bit of time and effort. What Dave, I think, is just posting is that we use this really cool app. It's called the Deal Machine app, right?
Yep.
And there's a free trial. I put a link there. We'll put that in the show notes.
There it goes. I got it up on the screen for you guys.
Sweet. So if you're watching, you can see that. We'll add a link in the show notes as well, or you can visit dpipodcast.com/toolkit. Go to our toolkit site, and we've got all of our links there.
Don't worry about all that. Just go to the Deal Machine app and use the code DAVE.
That works too?
And they'll get 15 free credits to use
sweet.
To test out skip tracing and direct mail, which is awesome, but also a 14-day trial too. So Deal Machine's great. The reason I like driving for dollars so much is because, A, we talked about earlier, you can find the properties that need the most repairs. But those people typically are happy to talk to you when you do reach them. When you do a lot of mass cold calling, cold texting, we do all these as well, even mail, there's not very much presumed motivation. Even if you have a list of death, divorce, disease, whatever it might be, there's still not necessarily a whole lot of presumed motivation. But when you have a house that literally has a hole in the roof, regardless if it's occupied or vacant, right? You would assume that they know that. And if not, inform them, educate them on it, right? And when they do notice, they're going to say, okay, now I really need to do something with this because every day, every week, every month that I wait, that house is deteriorating and molding and getting worse and worse. So by driving for dollars, you can really, really locate the worst of the worst and put that on a list to market to. Now, when we drive for dollars, that the act of driving for dollars itself is just creating a list. It's a non-dependent way of marketing, but it's creating the list. Then from there, you're going to take it and you're going to move it over to the list dependent types of marketing.
Exactly. So then you have to contact the owner, like I was saying, or figure out how to contact the owner and work with that owner, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Cool. Let's do the next one. So I think we've covered.
So
all
that's
of our
the
non-list.
non-list dependence. Yep.
So let's talk about some of our list dependent
Absolutely.
ways that we market or place. First off, let's start with
lists.
Where do you find lists?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's a list and why is it important?
One way would be to drive for dollars.
And you're generating and
And
building
you're generating your own. But there's also lots of ways to get lists without driving for dollars. We do both. We love driving for dollars. I think our 3 biggest deals to date, like 60, 80, and 100K, random that those numbers were like that, but that's, I think, the 3 biggest wholesales.
Mm-hmm.
We just closed a $60,000 fix and flip today, which is sweet, but neither here nor there. Wholesales all have come from the driving for dollars. So one way to get the list would be that, of course. The other way to go about getting lists we would recommend would be to get a PropStream subscription. And the reason is because with PropStream, you can pull lists for about 1 penny. It's about $100 a month, and you get 10,000 exports. So do the math. That's 1 cent per motivated seller lead. But the cool thing is if you don't pull all 10,000, you can also pull cash buyers, and you can run comps with this software. So for $100 a month, I would say it would probably be the most useful thing, most useful tool in my belt.
10,000 is a ton.
That's the minimum package too.
Is a ton of leads,
Yeah.
like for a list.
Yep.
So when I started, and I think, Dave, you were more on the direct mail bandwagon when you started as well. I mean, to send 10,000 postcards, I mean, figure about 50 cents for a first-class stamp or 50 cents to get a postcard and postage on there. You're talking about almost $5,000 to send 10,000 postcards. Like, that is a huge cost. So, again, you're probably not going to be mailing 10,000 postcards your first month. So that is a huge number of leads that you can export from their system, more than any one person is going to be able to work in some of the next ways that we discuss of finding and contacting motivated sellers. So the next one.
Yep. Well, why do we use PropStream though?
Sure, go for it.
So check this out, guys.
PropStream. Yeah.
So check this out. This is great. So when Mike and I started wholesaling full-time 6 years ago, we were both using ListSource and occasionally Listability.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first started, I was paying anywhere from like 17 to 25 cents a lead 5 years ago. And then we were introduced to leads for, I think, 6 cents through one of our direct mail providers, but it was still through ListSource and Listability.
Right. They just got a deal because they bought
so many.
Right.
But for the last 12 to 15 months, we've been using PropStream because it's 1 cent, and we already are using them to run comps anyway.
Yeah, this is the coolest thing.
So that's the most amazing thing. That's why we love them the most, because we're already using them for this other stuff, but we get these leads for a penny. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Well, and the thing about PropStream, the reason it's so, I would say, almost critical to someone who wants to wholesale or somebody who's in the wholesale business, if you're not an agent and you can't access the MLS and get comps, you have to be able to figure out what a property is worth. And PropStream does a really, really good job of compiling data, big data. So they take in MLS data, non-MLS data, and they give you a really accurate picture of what a property is worth. So very, very cool. PropStream. So yeah, that's very, very good. So Dave, I was going to start moving down into some of our list-dependent types of marketing. So we use PropStream to get the
motivated seller list. I mean, it's
Get the
great.
list.
You can filter by so many things, and you can find very niche lists as well. Favorite list would be driving for dollars, but everything else is coming from PropStream. We're purchasing it. Yeah, so now that we have the list,
What do we do next?
what do we do
So
next?
next, your first option, again, this is what I mentioned, I think we both started here, was direct mail. And direct mail is a staple of real estate investing. I don't see it ever going away. I can't even tell you how many letters that we get in the mail. I mean,
Here to the office?
We've got about 100 doors together, roughly. And we get, I mean, it's probably, Dave, I throw them away now, so I'm sorting the mail almost every day. I come in and I grab the mail.
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 a week.
Well, some days we'll get like 10 or 15 letters
In a day? Wow.
because somebody has pulled an
all the areas that we might own
and it's
in?
like, looks like they didn't filter out LLCs.
Or duplicates.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they'll
Duplicate owners.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we probably, I would say at least 1 or 2 letters a day. One a day.
So people are doing a ton of it.
There's a ton of mail going out. I still get some in my name to my house. I'm sure you do as well.
We do a little bit of direct mail ourselves, guys, but not much. Most of it is to follow up with people, or it's really, really, really niche lists that are smaller. Direct mail is expensive. It works. It always will. But you have the use of the the use of the microchip now, which you can automate stuff and send cold call, cold text, stuff like that for pennies. Literally, a penny or two to send a text message to somebody or call them versus 50, 60 cents to send a letter and then wait. Again, both methods are great.
And they work.
And they work. They all work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's one way that you can use your list. The next way you can use your list, and the next one
direct mail was number 1, right?
Direct mail I did was number 1.
Okay.
The next 3 or 4 or 3 we use in our business, right?
Yep.
And I think we found them more effective, more cost-effective, rather, and that's why we're sticking with it.
That's why we stick with it, right? So the next 3 are cold calling, cold texting, and the use of, we clump RVMs, ringless voicemails, and ringless or broadcasts together into one type of marketing because it's all done with software. You get the list out of PropStream or Deal Machine, and you export them from there. You import them into Mojo Dialer or Smart Dialer, into Batch Lead Stacker or Batch Voice, which will do both the RVMs as well as the broadcasts. The broadcasts are for landlines. You can't RVM a landline, so you can hit them with broadcasts, but they also leave a message with that service as well too. So you're leaving voicemails on answer machines for landlines. So lots of great resources there. The cool thing about cold calling and cold texting is it's very efficient, and the response rates are very, very high. When it comes to texting, we typically get about a 75 to 80% accuracy rate on getting the right person, which is really high. And then we typically get about a 35 to 40% rate of them responding to us. Now, 90% of those are no, not interested, take me off your list, so on and so forth. But 30 to 35% of every text message that we send out gets a response.
It's awesome.
Awesome. And it's about a penny to send a text message with an automated system.
Versus what was direct mail at last time we did it?
54?
No. Percent of response rate. I would say like
1 or 2. Maybe,
2%.
Yeah, 2%. I mean, maybe when we first started it was 3 or 4, but it's been dropping, I feel like, ever since.
Yeah.
It'll still work. By all means, it's a way to go about getting deals. But there's cheaper ways, which is what I really
100%,
like.
100%, man.
So that would be the last couple. Again, there's 40 or 50 other ways to go about finding motivated sellers to market to, but these are the ways that we use and or like the most. We had mentioned the online advertising up above with the non-dependent as well as the bandit signs, and the apps. Go Knock is another great app similar to Driving for Dollars.
That's pretty new though, isn't it?
It's very new, yeah. But instead of you plotting, it's list based like we talked about, where it'll show you the foreclosures or the pre-foreclosures or the tax delinquents, and then you can then go target those as well. So another great resource. So that would be it, guys. 2 different types of marketing: list dependent, non-list dependent. All of it works. Typically, the stuff that's going to cost the most isn't necessarily going to be best, right? We used to think the AdWords leads were the best, but they were $150 to $200 a lead. And it's not necessarily true. Sometimes we can send one text message for a penny and get a deal from it, So don't worry necessarily, don't think that if you pay more for your marketing that it's going to be better. It's not always the case. There's a lot of inefficiencies. And I think that's about it. Mike, anything you want to end with?
I don't think so, guys. Again, that's one of the most important things in wholesaling is finding motivated sellers, and those are a pretty simple breakdown of how we do it. You're either going to find a list or not. So
that's right.
Or work with a list or not.
All right, guys. Signing off. Thanks for watching. Discount Property Investor Podcast.